being a patron and asking for this video. So this is the, let's see here. It is a video with Jasmine Sullivan, Lettucey, Cynthia Erivo, Stephanie Mills, and Yolanda Adams. Holy crud. Okay, and it's in 11 minutes, so we're going to get some good stuff here.
We love you, Aretha. You're no good.
I'm not usually a fan of basically bedazzled clothing, but Jasmine rocks it.
Heartbreaker. You're a liar and you're a cheater. And I don't know why I let you do these things to me.
Come on. First of all, I'll appreciate a moment for Jasmine Sullivan. I mean, this is a tribute to Aretha Franklin. So Jasmine Sullivan's making adjustments. Of course, Jasmine will throw in this bright brassy tone every now and then. But because it's an Aretha tribute, she's going full Aretha Franklin with the bright vowels. I know, right? Versus I know, like something else like that, where there's a little bit more pucker to the lips, if you will. So this is really cool right off the bat.
You're a liar and you're a cheater. And I don't know why I let you do these things to me. Yeah, my friends keep telling me that you ain't no good. But oh, they don't know that I'd leave you if I could.
So the Aretha Franklin style of singing, I think we're going to see it more when, I guess Yolanda Adams is in this video, so we're going to see it there for sure. But this is an homage. Jasmine is very much still in her wheelhouse. She's just making adjustments on the vowels. Usually the Aretha Franklin style is very, very, very power oriented, very, very much of a belt. It's got so much power and heft to it. And you can tell that Jasmine's not going for that and more trying to do this happy medium between her style and the Aretha style. Because with the runs that Jasmine's doing right here, if she went too blot out with the power, she went, too much into that, you wouldn't get a lot of these runs. And the reason why that happens is that, and we talk a lot about belting in this channel, if you haven't heard it before, cricoid cartilage tilts, folds get thick. And that is what creates the belt sound, and that creates that power. But the problem with really thick folds is they don't move really easy, right? If you're going to do a lot of runs, you want thin folds so that they move and adjust to the pitch like that. And so that's why Jasmine is making this compromise, because she wants to do these runs. So it's not that she can't do the Aretha Franklin. Jasmine can have as much power as she wants. She's a queen. But she's making this decision. And so I just think that's really interesting to have here, that you can walk this line in between the two styles. I think it's cool.
I guess I'm uptight, and I'm stuck like glue. 'Cause I ain't never loved a man the way that I love you.
Oh, boy. Can we... Oh, boy. That background... So, background singers in R&B and soul, and definitely for, like, Aretha Franklin, and, backup singers are a great big part of this sort of styles tradition. But what I love here is that they only have one here. There's only one person harmonizing. And this was true in Lettucey's NPR Tiny Desk. And it's really cool. So when you have three singers on the same note, that's when you start to lose the ability to discern who's who. And so there really is this really cool effect of only having two singers, because you really hear the individual voices. So let's just hear that again. And by the way, that is a really weird number. I swear to you, add three people to a line, you won't be able to tell who's apart. It's kind of a cool little trick. Choir director once taught me.
I guess love you.
That's good.
I can't sleep at night, no. I can't eat a bite, no. I guess I'll never ever be free. Since you died, your hopes are in me.
So, okay, this is I have gotten so curious about this particular effect where people are in their higher range and they're doing a vocal fry. That frying, that rasp. So I actually reached out to my voice and speech pathologist friend, and I specifically played her a bunch of Leandria Johnson, who does this like with a ferocity I don't think I've ever heard before. And we had an interesting realization. If you tilt your cricoid cartilage to belt, or you tilt your thyroid cartilage to like tilt and give vibrato and warmth, and by the way, you can do both at the same time, which is like, we're not going to get that deep into it, but anytime you do these things, the vocal folds will be adjusted in such a way where frying them becomes really difficult. So when we associate this fry in the top with a lot of power because it adds a little bit of distortion, which will add more frequencies, which increases the volume. But it strictly increases the volume when you're on a microphone. So it's actually a lot quieter to the human ear than you would think. And the way that this works is that you actually have to have your larynx in a neutral position. No tilts at all. And so, because when we go up high and we kind of keep a neutral position, what we get is this. Right? We start to get that break into falsetto a little bit because the folds can only thin so much. And so what some singers have figured out how to do is that they'll take this fold separation that happens naturally as you go up, and they'll fry at that point in time. And what fry is when your folds go plop, 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 like that. And so to me, it's just like, this is the genius of an inventiveness of singers, because you would never get a voice teacher, almost any voice teacher, at least that I have known, to teach you this sort of a thing. But even if they just intuit it and they don't know what's going on specifically with the vocal folds, they figure it out. And I just think that that's so cool that people figure this stuff out by just playing around and experimenting and seeing what they can do. And I think Jasmine Sullivan kind of epitomizes that in terms of just how varied her palette is. That's ridiculous.
Love the man the way that I love you. Everybody, give it up for Lettucey.
I can't wait for Lettucey. Lettucey is one of my favorite singers. Because Lettucey sings in this like old school way, and I think she's going to show us like a lot more of the Aretha Franklin sort of thing. But dang, I also can't help but always be impressed by Jasmine's like smoky tone. A lot of singers want to add a lot of brass and steel to their sound, and I just love that Jasmine she can do that, but she also has this like smoky, lush voice, and we're gonna hear, I think, a big contrast here. Which is a huge shout out to how amazing R&B and soul as a genre is, that you can do so many different things.
Ain't no way
Yes.
for me to love you if you won't let me.
Okay. I have to point this out. This is probably, it's not, you don't always start the performance the same way all the time. But I respect people who can do this because I think it's incredibly, incredibly hard. She is standing there calm and is like, let me tell you, let me say this to you. She's not like, hey, everybody. Like, she's not starting out big. It's so hard to do that because when you sing, she's on TV, there's a big audience, nerves happen. It's not that she doesn't have nerves. She has nerves. She's just such an experienced performer that she can stand there with the nerves and be like, I'm just going to say this simply. It's really difficult. I live stream a lot. I am just starting to get to the point where I'm not frantic. I'm still a little frantic, but I'm not super frantic. So that's just me and a camera with lights in my own house. She's got lights, camera, dress. So this starting is just amazing from her. That's so hard to do.
Ain't no way.
Right? Ain't no way she looks to the audience and just says it.
For me to love you.
Ooh, yeah.
If you won't let me. I know that a woman's duty is to help and love
Ooh,
a
yes.
man.
Okay. Let's talk about Belt for a second.
I know that a woman's duty.
This steely tone is definitely a lot more in the direction of opera, which is where Aretha Franklin got that sort of power from, is taking things from classical and making it her own. And that steely sound is something that Ledisi is so good at and exceptional at because she was classically trained. But what you don't get in classical training, where anyone who grew up in like a gospel church sort of environment can do this belt like it's nothing. And so she goes from this sort of like vibrato classical style into this.
Is to help.
That's just full belt. That's never taught in classical music. So full belt, what I love about it is that you don't get the warmth that you do. So listen to how warm Ledisi's tone is here.
I know that a woman's duty is to help.
The second she goes into belt, her larynx pops up. You have to have a higher larynx when you go for a belt. And so, because, the thyroid tilt, which is what we use for classical singing, it just naturally adds some warmth. Because it tilts, it will lower the larynx a little bit inherently, and you'll get a richer tone. So this will be neutral, and I'll throw a little tilt in. You see how it warms up the tone? So she's going from that, and boom. Not only does the larynx go up, but that cricoid cartilage tilts immediately. And to have this level of comfort between the styles is, to me, really impressive because there's a lot of coordination going on.
I know that a woman's duty is to help and
And she uses an aspirate to help her get there, as the aspirate.
love a man.
And what an aspirate will do is it'll blow your folds open, and then when they close, they'll approximate to exactly where they should be. Really helpful when you're going for something like a belt, which is a little risque, potentially, on the voice. The number one cause of vocal injury is from belting, but namely from people who don't come from a tradition where belting is prevalent. So no risks usually to someone like Ledisi, because she's just masterful. And one of the things that she's doing here to kind of like help her go through this dramatic shift in laryngeal position with the folds, et cetera, she's using that aspirate.
I know that a woman's duty is to help and love a man.
Credit to, I believe this song was written by Aretha Franklin, help being the word that gets belted is kind of genius. And don't get it twisted. It was almost certainly intentional, because opera composers do this all the time, where they'll use vowels and consonants that are advantageous to a singer in certain parts of the range. So make no mistake that Aretha Franklin and whoever wrote this tune was probably very mindful of this.
And that's the way it was planned. Stop trying to be someone you're not.
Oh, God, yes.
Hey. And if you need me, like you say,
Oh, what? What? Yes! Yes! Get out of here! So when I said earlier before you can use the cricoid and the thyroid tilt at the same time, here's what that sounds like.
Don't you know that
Yes! I don't know what I won, but I won something. Yes.
ain't no way,
And this is just, she's such a master. First of all, I love her sound. I just love how old school she is, which is why she's so perfect for this sort of music. She has just got this old school, brassy, big honker of a sound, and she just has this masterful control over it, and it sounds beautiful, but also kind of epic at the same time. And there's just every little moment, there's just some nugget that's going on. So the cricoid and thyroid tilt at the same time, cool. But she's like, okay, I'm going to do this belt. Okay, now we're going to go back to thyroid tilt for a little bit more classical. Okay, and then I'm going to go into this classical, and then I'm going to switch to this belt. Like, it's just gymnastics on a level I cannot even begin to communicate. Like, give this woman a gold medal. Yes. Every singer should take a picture of Lettucey at any point in her performance and stare at it in awe at how amazing her posture is. She's not only incredibly tall and elegant and regal, but she's completely relaxed about it. And this is a fundamental part of singing. Posture is almost, I have a hard, breath, inhale, exhale, management, vowels, posture. And I put posture over here with breath because it's very, very closely tied together. The lungs are like a plastic bag against the torso. Any movement of the torso will affect your breath. And so posture is balance, posture is active. And what a great person who's like a great singer is really great at posture is able to achieve is a lot of this gymnastic stuff, because they don't have like these different torso contractions that like always make air very difficult to navigate. She's just breathing with ease and standing and singing with ease, which is not easy. Probably goes without saying, but yeah. Might fade away, yes. Every singer in this lineup is just divine. Cynthia Erivo is just so good with communicating with the audience. Her theater experience is evident here, and her performance experience is evident here. Look at how wide open this is like a vulnerable letting people in sort of position, right? To be in, to open up your chest to the audience, to be vulnerable like this. And she's just doing it right off the bat, and she's so captivating as just a person and as an artist. And that's hard to quantify and like pinpoint why that is, but there's just certain things that she's doing that just, I think, make her mesmerizing. Ooh, I love this little glottal. It's very tempting when you have this style of singing. It has so much power, and it's easy to kind of get drunk on it. And a lot of opera singers kind of get drunk on it and lose nuance. But if you have this power very easily, if you can do it without a lot of tension, there's a lot of really cool things you can do. Obviously, we saw that with Lettucey. But what Cynthia Erivo just did was she did what's called a glottal. So if I'm in the middle of elongating a vowel and I just stop like there, that's a glottal. And if you're singing with too much breath pressure and you use a glottal, it's actually exhausting, because what's happening is your folds are right. You have to glottal pretty hard. But listen to how easy the glottal is for her. Yeah, seamless. Yes. That's more of that, like, switching between the tilt stuff to get all that, Her mic placement choices are really interesting. So if we go back and we look at Jasmine Sullivan's mic technique, this is definitely more of a modern decision to get it real close like this. And this kind of works to the advantage of Jasmine Sullivan, who has that really smoky, lush, lower tone, right? So even when she does like a pull away, it's still pretty close. The usual decision is to keep it about an inch and pointed an inch away and pointed to your bottom lip, is what most sound engineers will tell you to do. And what we see here is a radical difference, right? Even Lettucey is keeping it more of that traditional, like, an inch away. And then she'll put it up close when she wants the proximity effect and to make a more lush, round tone. So, the proximity effect is when you get closer to the mic, you hear how lows get really emphasized. And if I just bring it back by talking the same way, you'll hear how the lows go away. And so when I'm on an O vowel, like Lettucey is here, you're getting O. Yes, and it complements the O vowel. Now we go back to Cynthia Erivo with this really, really, really far distance mic technique. And this is actually how mics were generally placed in the era of Aretha Franklin. And you'll see this all the time, even now, today, with opera singers. They give this nice 6-inch space between the mic and the mouth. And what it does is it gives that traditionally more brassy tone a little bit less of a strident sound. You see how that sounds more old school? So if we go back to Lettucey. So she's not afraid of it being strident and epic because that's what she's going for. But all of a sudden, it's a little smoother. It's very stylistically appropriate.
This is my prayer. Answer my prayer now, baby. This is my prayer. Answer my prayer. This is my prayer.
There's so much going on with when you have singers like this. I mean, you could just there's like every like 2 seconds there's something cool going on. Going high is obviously something that a lot of singers find challenging, particularly beginners, right? And what the problem is it's not actually that they're having a hard time going high. It's that they can get to a high note and they don't like the way it sounds. So most beginners, if they go and hit a high note, it'll sound like this. And they don't like that. And so it builds up this resentment towards falsetto or any sort of perceived disconnection of the voice. But what they don't realize is that when they hit this, Chad, that's pretty much 90% of the recipe. All I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little thyroid tilt. Chad. Boom. I didn't change the vowel. I didn't change the breath. I just tilted my thyroid cartilage. Now, that's a muscle. That does take a while to develop. But it's important to notice that you don't do crazy things on the top. There's nothing that's that much dramatically different between this right? It's just like the mouth, the vowels, nothing changes but to answer my prayer now, right?
Please love me true. This is my prayer. Answer my prayer now, baby. This is my prayer. Answer my prayer. This is my prayer.
And that's a cricoid tilt belt.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Stephanie Mills.
And in particular, what I love about this is a lot. So singers who treat tilts on a continuum usually get a lot of credit. More so if they use the thyroid tilt. So if I do this, right, I can crescendo just by tilting. The same applies for the cricoid tilt. And so she just kind of brings it in like a really subtle dial, and that's just masterful.
This is my prayer. Ladies and
And
gentlemen,
then lets it go. I just think that's incredibly impressive. Yes.
living for you, my dear. It's living in a world of tears. Hear my plea. I've got to let you see.
This is my first time hearing, I believe her name was Cynthia Mills? No, Stephanie Mills. Okay, so Stephanie Mills, this is the first time I'm hearing her. I love her immediate, dance, pop, rhythmic vibe to this style of singing.
Living in a world of tears. Hear my plea.
Even when she changes her vowels, it's in time, which is kind of incredible to me.
Living in a world of tears.
that way that she cuts off on tears is in time.
Hear my plea, I'm not to let you see that
See, all her glottal stops are in time. Michael Jackson super popularized that, but obviously, old school singers like Aretha Franklin totally could do that and did do that. And so I just think it's amazing. We've had every singer that's come on has been different and has offered a different kind of homage to this older style of singing, which is one of my personal favorite styles. And they're taking different elements and highlighting different elements. This is a marvelous tribute to Aretha Franklin. Yes.
I'm gonna rap on your door, tap on your window pane.
Everything she is doing is in time. Vowel changes, glottal stops, consonants. It's all so interesting in that she's using these to phrase brilliantly.
Somehow I must explain.
Explain. Right? Like, that's in time.
I'm gonna rap on your door, tap on your window pane. I'm gonna pick my steps to prove that my love is true. I've got to change my view, baby. Naturally, that's all I'm gonna do.
Let's just give a moment to recognize that she just did all those dance moves and is feeling herself in heels. Respect.
I know that. Yes, it do. Oh, yeah. If you only believe when you're down. If you feel yourself on the street. When the evening falls so hard, I will comfort you. I'll take your part. Oh, when darkness comes and pain is all around like a bridge over troubled waters, I'll be there to lay you down like a bridge over troubled waters. I will lay you down.
The way she's changing vowels, like, I want to listen to her a lot more, because like, every singer kind of has like their own little idioms, their own little things that are unique to them. And there's just these ways that she's using vowels and changing the vowels mid phrase that I don't think I've really ever heard, like, all of this in one package. It's really cool. Water. Like, there was 3 vowels in the end of like water. And then the when you're in your low, it's a much, again, old school decision making when you're in your low is to give it an incredible amount of brightness, because it keeps the line consistent. But as mic technology and audio technology has gotten a lot better, people have done more interesting things and a lot of different things with the lows. So I just think this is really cool. When she goes down the low here, she gives it incredible brightness. And if I had a dynamic microphone and I took off all the compression, you would hear what I mean. But let's try. So what's a low note for me? very warm sound. I'm going to get close to the mic, doing a vowel that brings out the warmth, O or U. But what she just did is, oh, which connects to the top better. So if I go, ooh, right? There is a dramatic difference in that. And I think more modern sentiments are that that's preferable, is to have this dramatic thing going on. But if you want it to sound all like one line without any breaks and it's elegant and smooth, right? It's a little bit more even. And that's what she's doing.
I will lay you down.
I will lay you down, right?
Be your bridge. Yes, I will. Why don't you let it heal? Still waters run deep. Oh, yes, they do. I know that. Oh, yeah. Still waters. Yolanda Adams.
Now we all know that the Queen would take you to church at the end of the concert. Come on. I got over. You know my soul. That's back in water. I got over.
I love Yolanda Adams. I love all of these singers. And they're all different in their own ways. So we've had a lot of this sort of like brassy, bright vowel thing that's been going on. Which I love.
End of the concert. Come on. I got over.
But when we started with Jasmine, who did a mixture of what she does as well as what Aretha does. What I find interesting with Yolanda
Come on. I got over.
is she's able to bring the brassiness and depth and warmth. And this is the goal of pretty much every opera singer, is to have both qualities of brassiness and darkness. There's actually a term, I won't say it because I think non-Italian people using Italian terms to describe singing is kind of pretentious. But if I were to do Chatica, right? That's kind of what we've been hearing is this brighter preference, right? But if it's opera, it's Chatica, right? You had both. And so Yolanda Adams is doing both. There's a lot of sound going on here. It's really, really lush, but also kind of epic.
You know my soul. That's back in water. I got over. I got over.
Yes.
You know my soul. That's back in water. I got over.
Yes.
Just as soon as I see Jesus. Oh yes. The man who made me free. Oh yes. You know the man who bled and suffered. Oh yes. He went died for you and me.
And she's alternating between them to give emphasis to words. It's so... I think singers forget, it's not just our job to sound good. We have lyrics that we need to convey. And it's like... honestly, usually the best Shakespearean actors train singing, because you have to give life to these words. And notice what Yolanda Adams is doing to make sure that we hear every single word. Because she said, we got to take you to church. Well, if you're going to preach, you have to be heard. And listen to how she's achieving that.
Man who bled and suffered. He went died for you and me.
Died. I'm not going to do it up there. Died for you and me. Right? That brightness. She's making these decisions.
I'm gonna thank him because he brought me. I'm gonna thank him because he taught me. I'm gonna thank him because he kept me. Gotta thank him because he never left me. And I'm gonna sing hallelujah. I might shout this evening. I'm gonna thank him for all he's done for me. Come on, sing it, y'all. How I got over.
I just can't help but smile. It's so, and this has happened with every performer that's come on so far, is this grounded centeredness, this sort of like, they're bringing the energy, but they're not frantic in the slightest. There's not even a point percentile of franticness. And I find singers like this who deliver such immaculate performances and can do it while being centered, grounded. Like, I find this, on one hand, terribly intimidating, knowing how hard it is to achieve that and how much experience it takes. But then I also find it to be incredibly motivating. I have a lot of social anxiety, and it's only amplified when the stage and the lights are on me. But I've always loved singing and singers. I'm getting a little verklempt here, but like I've always loved singing and singers because it's not only hi, I'm here. It's like I am the show. And so I've always found that to be a marvelous challenge for me particularly. And I get really inspired when I see people kill it at this level of ability. It's like, if they can do that, and if I do 10% of that, I'm amazing. Like, that's a victory. Because there's so many levels to great singing. And I feel like singers like what we're listening to now in this older school style and R&B and soul and all this stuff, it's not given the respect and appreciation I think it so rightly deserves. This style has such a history and a lot of nuance. Every singer is bringing their own little things and expressivity, and I think it's just incredible and inspiring.
For what you done for me, you keep doing it. Go over, go over, go over, over. Just wanna thank you.
Yes, yes.
Look back and wonder how we got over.
You gotta be kidding me. Yes. Come on. Come on. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, how could you not love that?